Welcome back to another Creative Encounter podcast episode. I'm your host, Juiette, and you are back for episode 39 of this podcast. Super excited to share who my guest is today, but before I do that, I do want you guys to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you leave a review on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating on Spotify so we can reach so many more Kingdom creatives through this podcast. But without further ado, this may be one of my longest friends that I've had on this show so far, dude. This is crazy. Okay, so this is my guy, Michael Mims. Mims, what's going on, bro?
How you doing, bro? It feels just a blessing to be here.
So good to see you, man. We finally made this happen. I've wanted Mims to be on this episode for a long time just because you are just a wealth of just like knowledge and wisdom. Just as a person, as a creative, and then as a believer too, dude. So it's just like, I feel like you just have so much that you can offer, and I've been wanting to get you on here. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way, but we're here now.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to like, it's been over 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like about 16, 17 years we've been homies, bro. Insane.
Yeah.
So let me tell you guys about how me and Mims met. So I don't know if this is the moment
Which
we
version?
met.
You're like,
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to tell what I remember. And you tell me what you remember.
All right,
Cool.
right.
All right, so me and Mims, we went to UIC here in Chicago. We went to college together, all 4 years, studied architecture. And, in architecture, you're in the studio and you have different instructors and professors, so you kind of broken up into different areas. I don't know if the first time we met was when Matt was singing his song and you were in his group, I think maybe, or we were in the same group, I think, at the time.
We might have been in the same group.
Was it with Lisa?
Oh, I don't even know.
I don't know if you were in Lisa. Okay.
I don't know.
But we're in the same group, and our friend Matt, he's always in the studio just singing all day long, and I just started making jokes and singing about it. I think Mims was like laughing, and we started like hanging out after that. I can't remember how it started, but that was my first like experience with you, I think.
Yeah, I think we might have been in the same group.
Okay.
We were probably crunching some last minute stuff, gluing some pieces together, and Matt was always singing because he was always last minute everything.
The paper.
You just crinkle up paper and put it on the thing. And he sold it too.
Yeah.
And that's when we knew.
That's what we knew.
We all were going to be friends.
Change that degree.
Yeah. Are you an architect?
No.
Me either. No.
Yeah. I love it.
So
we got a degree in architecture though, so if y'all got some questions,
y'all
can ask the current students at UIC. Just kidding. But okay, so like, was that your first memory too?
Yeah, and then I remember... I've told you this before. I remember being completely annoyed by how peaceful you were in the most stressful environment.
Dude.
Because studio was no joke. Yeah. And I think, when you think of med school, you think of like, you go into school to be a mathematician. There's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's really black and white.
Yeah.
With design school, studio, like, it's so subjective and very stressful.
Yep.
And the environment was very not healthy for students to learn and to grow, honestly. I mean, you were so peaceful throughout the entire process, and I always be looking at you like, why are you like that? Why are you like that?
What's with this guy?
Everybody else is freaking out and sleeping on the concrete floor, and you're just chilling, playing video games on the side.
Right. Watching YouTube helped me. Some people drink coffee and all this stuff. YouTube really helped. But no, just like, I feel like the Lord was just helping me to just get through that whole season because I had to pray a lot. Because when I was back at the residence halls, like at night and we're staying up late, there were so many like freaking out moments. I was like, dude, like when the sun was about to come up and they're not even close to being done, I was like, oh God, this is horrible. So
and see, that was the side of you that I now realize, retracing my steps, because I wasn't really saved then, and I was in my own mind striving a lot, trying to climb a ladder that was always going to be, I was always going to be chasing. That was one of the moments where I'm like, yo, you're weirdly different and kind of outer worldly. And I know you were leaning a lot on the Lord. And I can look back and reflect back on that time and say, oh, I get it. Yeah. I get it now. Wow. Totally. So,
dude, even referencing that, like you coming to faith. I mean, we have so much to talk about because we've been homies forever.
Yeah, we might have to do a long
we gotta
episode.
do it. Okay. Before we even get to that, so this is what we're gonna do, y'all. So my guy over here, he's Korean. Okay, and y'all know, I pretty much in almost every episode I talk about how I love Korean fried chicken. It's like horrible how much I talk about it. So like today we were literally gonna get some because Mims, when we were setting this up, he's like, dude, we gotta have some chicken. I'm like, don't say that because I'll get it. I was like, I'll get it.
We're just munching on chicken.
Yeah, but we didn't pick it up today. But
what
we said is we gotta do another episode because we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have chicken next time. So we're gonna be munching. If you listen on Spotify driving, you're gonna hear some chews and all
Yeah,
that
it's gonna
stuff.
be a little ASMR. Yeah, that's what they call it.
What's that?
It's where you just record noises.
Just record.
Just chew
I'm
on the
like, yeah, what's
microphone
that?
for 30 minutes.
I love it. So
Yeah.
expect that in a future episode, probably episode like 45 or something like that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But pretty much, okay, back to just your faith, bro.
Yeah.
Because I love how unashamed, like we just had the whole event called Unashamed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just telling everyone, we got to be unashamed with our faith. Mm-hmm. And I love how unashamed you are with your faith. But even backtracking, we graduated in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Gabby and I got married in 2014.
Right.
And you and Matt did video and photography for our wedding. Or
Yep.
video. You guys did video for our wedding.
Yep.
And I think that was the first time we reconnected after we graduated.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that moment, you're telling me, like, dude, I'm a believer now. So whatever. It blew my mind. I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I was so excited. And your zeal, usually people are like super zealous when they first come to Christ and all this stuff. And then, and then if the seeds, like Matthew 13, if the seeds aren't in that fertile soil, they could just kind of just, but you've just been on fire. You've been steadfast. And I just praise God for you and your testimony.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's only gone up. That zeal has only burned even hotter.
I love it.
And it's crazy because I've seen people, and you probably as well, our peers and people who had at one time faith even kind of drift away and through circumstances. And I've been through a lot. But yeah, I'm convinced so much just the Lord's faithfulness and his nearness and his presence to transform lives. So I'm a testament to that. And it all kind of comes back full circle with what we do. We kind of run parallel in a lot of ways with our creativity and our career paths.
I was thinking today as far as the scriptures.
Yeah.
I'm doing the whole Bible in a year thing.
Okay.
So right now I'm in Acts.
Well, which part?
So just like right after that, Paul is like,
Okay.
Paul, him and Barnabas just kind of just separated all that stuff.
Barnabas is my guy.
Yeah. So I'm like at 16 where Timothy just came in, Acts 16. So he's training up Timothy. But it's funny because I was thinking, I was like, man, like if you think like me and Mims, I feel like you would be like Paul to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I feel like you would be like a Paul because you're just so bold. Like I feel like in a sense of like if we had to do like Peter and Paul type of thing, I would be Peter just because of the sense of.
Because you like to be chopping people's ears off?
Yeah, I'm always like, going hard with like, people, if they don't believe, I just start chopping off ears and stuff like that. But then the Lord put it back together. So I'm like, dude, what's that about? No, but just kind of like, the faith starting and then you kind of just keeping it going type of thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, man. That's so cool how we have those similarities to the apostles nowadays, even in believers around us and stuff, So I love that, dude. Yeah.
Testify.
Yeah, amen.
Testify, my guy.
Crazy. Yes, sir. Okay, so let's talk now about like your upbringing. We're going to get to the creativity piece.
We go anywhere you want.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about is I know that you say you're adopted, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So that whole situation and your story through that, how that kind of connects even to you coming to the Lord and stuff. So kind of just that story and how that all connects,
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Buckle up.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was adopted when I was 6 months old from South Korea. And so I'm Korean on the outside, but my adoptive mom is Italian.
And you black on the inside, though.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, South Korea. Come on. This is why we both like chicken.
South side.
South side.
No, go ahead, sorry.
No, but for real. So I was adopted into a really loving home. But I knew early on, even as soon as I could recognize cognitively that I was different. And my mom and my dad, middle class, white family in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, pretty safe. But I would go to places and be different. I wasn't like everyone else in my area. And I knew pretty much early on that I wasn't the same. And as much as my parents made me feel welcome, and they told me and they affirmed me, something deep within me just felt out of place, which led me through this path, I think, in early I now recognize was just dealing with trauma that I never really could articulate. And so that would manifest in different ways. I would act out, I would lie a lot as a kid. I think that was a defensive mechanism in me to kind of like keep people at bay. I would love to be the center of attention, class clown kind of thing, which I also realized that I probably had a little bit of ADHD back then. Couldn't focus, but I would do well, and I would try to strive to do well in school and to prove myself in some areas that I was worthy of acceptance and love. And that kind of, again, growing up through my teenage years kind of manifested in different ways. I saw my parents kind of struggle financially. My dad was a very blue class kind of in a blue class working field industry, and he kind of struggled at times to support the family. And in my mind, I was like, I have to help my family somehow, and this maybe this path through education can get me there. I can be successful. I can be rich. I can do all the things. Had a good intention, I think, but again, wrong motive to continue to strive and to be someone and to be known, so that people will be like, oh, yeah, he helped shift whatever in his family was like. And I did well. I did really well in school, high school, graduated in the top like 25, like overall out of 500 people. It was great. And then I went to UIC, and that's when it kind of hit me because I now was a small, what are they? A big fish in a small? No, a small fish in a big pond. And again, being in a studio and being in this very subjective kind of field, struggled with grades in there, and I was oh, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, and trying to do things that just weren't working out, and then graduating quite literally in the middle of a recession and not being able to find a job in the field. I don't know if you struggle with that. I know I did, but also needing to have insurance and all these things. All of this kind of just came together, this cocktail of what I assumed to be failure. And I think post-graduation, for a little while, I was working 7 days a week just to pay down student loans because I needed to, and I needed insurance because my family couldn't afford to keep me covered. It was a big struggle and not seeing a lot of breakthrough in the areas, and it kind of really broke me. I was, at the time, I now realize was depressed. Suicidal even, had some really dark moments. And I remember the closest thing I ever got to a suicide note, I have the note still and I keep it just to kind of show how far I've come, was I was cursing out my parents, I was cursing out God, and I wrote on there, it would be better if I wasn't even alive. And so wild to come to that moment of darkness and then realize somehow God was still compelling me. My mom, thank God for her praying mother, because she would continue to pray over me and even kind of drag me into the church scene every once in a while. And I ended up kind of half stepping into the church experience again. I was raised Catholic, but that by that time we were kind of stepping into like a mega church, non-denominational experience, which seemed different, but it also didn't seem like it was something I was interested in, because I had in my mind how I was going to get to where I needed to get to. And I just remember a baptism service. The sermon felt like it spoke directly to me. It was like, you can strive for money, fame, status, all of the things, relationships, and all those things you might achieve or you might not, but all of those things will leave you feeling empty. Like nothing will fully satisfy you. And it's the Lord that really wants to be that person, fill in that gap for you. And I just remember, I think there's a stigma growing up. Maybe you can experience or have an experience with like men don't share emotions or show emotions, don't cry. And I just remember breaking down crying, even in front of my family. I was like, I don't care. I just felt like the Lord for the first time. I felt his presence, and I felt like he just released me of the burden to strive. And so, the whole idea of being physically adopted has been something that I was struggling with, but now understanding the spiritual adoption of God being our Father is a part of the ministry that I like to articulate and share with other people now, is just how do I really show people and testify what true sonship looks like. And that's kind of been that moment. And then from there on, got really into serving at the church and really understanding what it is to be a part of the church, and then having really close encounters with the Holy Spirit, seeing God do some miraculous things in my life and in others. And so that's just set me on fire, and it hasn't been extinguished since.
Yeah. Oh, praise the Lord. I love that, man. Praise God.
Come on. Yeah, really, truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
And you know what's crazy is sometimes the enemy will try to tap into our future and try and see what's going to happen and stuff and try to just take that away, you know? So that's when you had that season of depression and suicidal thoughts, and, you know, even to the point where you're like, you know, I'm writing it out, all of that stuff. It got to that point, and Satan was like, I got him, you know? And the guy's like, no, you don't, you know?
Yeah.
God, it's so crazy because he gets so far, but doesn't know the end story.
You still don't know that he
lost.
lost.
It's crazy.
He
it
lost.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, God is so good. I love that.
He is. Yeah. And then it's being able to share that story in other environments and seeing other people's breakthrough. You know, just me being a willing vessel.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what it's all about. I think that's what we try to posture our entire lives to be now, is just to be willing and able. When God says to do something, to be able to speak, to step out of our comfort zone, and to just, be that zeal. And so have had experiences in person to lead people to the Lord, online, praying for breakthrough and transformation and deliverance. It's been the coolest thing to just be, here I am, Lord. Use me however you want to. And he does if you have that, you know, humble posture.
And that's what I was going to mention too, how even going back to school, like, we're not practicing architecture, but I feel like it really equipped us for the stuff that we do now. Just having that boldness, being able to, you know, just stand and just speak, you know, speak in front of others. And,
true.
And it really just put yourself out there. It's like you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears, your thoughts, your heart up here for everyone to judge and look at and everything. And you have to take whatever comes and hits you and stuff. And I think that's so needed when you're doing ministry. You know, so like, I see you, like, I love how you mentioned the digital aspect online, using, I believe TikTok is a platform that you utilize
one of the
a lot.
platforms,
Instagram, all of that, you know, Facebook, all of that. But I really see you on TikTok and stuff, and I love the posts that you do and everything, you know, it's so dope. So like, you are really just good at just motivating, being bold about it, being like, okay, God, I'm not reading your word just for me to get filled. I'm reading it so I can give it out back up to people and stuff too. So how did you kind of get started in just getting into ministry, and then eventually you utilizing that platform?
Yeah, crazy enough. So backing up to, it was like around 2016, 2015. So at that point, I've been born again for about 3 or so years. And I was in a place where I wasn't happy with where I was, knowing that I was a creative person, being in a job that wasn't creative in nature.
I remember us talking during that time too.
And that was right around the time where I was like, yeah, man, I'll come to film and stuff. I'll do these projects on the side, because my job 9 to 5 and then my weekend job was not creative at all. I was in the emergency room on the weekend. So like, that was another story. So I was using creative gifts, and then I started serving in my church. And at that time, we had like a small young adult section community that we kind of formed a really strong community. And I was using at that time, again, not practicing anything in architecture, but using what I learned in graphic design. So we started branding this community, and we had the best kind of graphics, and young adults were really interested in our events and what we were doing. And then at that time, I was like, I'll help run the Facebook page because I have some experience in that. And just by doing that in and of itself, again, not expecting it to turn into anything, it eventually opened up a door to work at a Christian nonprofit.
That's awesome.
In social media. And I had, again, no true experience on paper, but by kind of volunteering, that opened the door, and they took a chance on me. And I had worked. You
had that gift, man. Your gift is what makes room for you to switch
exactly.
Wow.
And so I started working there, worked in social media, building digital communities, and it was a legacy organization, so they had been around for 70 plus years, but trying to like move the ministry ahead into today's, you know, donors, today's
and that's
audience.
good because a lot of
Yeah.
places will stay in
Yeah, and that
old
was a
school.
challenge. It was a challenge. There was a
Yeah.
lot of barriers. All to say, I had been there for 5 years. My ending was a little messy, and I felt at the end of 2019 that it was time for me to step out on my own and kind of do my own thing. I felt like I was resourced enough. I was knowledgeable enough, and I could articulate strategy. I can articulate creative, social media plans and all that stuff. So that was what I had planned to do. And right around that time, TikTok was kind of a thing. It had kind of transformed from Vine, which I had not been on. But TikTok was the thing. And everybody at the time said, it's a Chinese company, privacy. And quite frankly, as a social media strategist, I try to be an early adopter on platforms just to kind of test it out. And in my mind, I was like, can this platform be used by organizations, by specifically impact-driven or ministry-focused organizations to share their story? And while everybody was saying, no, you probably shouldn't be on that platform, I was like, listen, the internet, everyone, China probably has my information anyway, so I'm just going to test it out. And kind of just went in, and it kind of started where in order to understand the platform the best, you at that time needed to just jump in and create content. And I'm like, well, I've never really been in front of the camera before. I've always been shooting people and creating content for other people. So that was new for me. And so I started to think about what I cared about the most. And for me, that was first and foremost Jesus. And then, right underneath that, but very tangential, is prayer. I have a huge heart for prayer and intercession. So at the time, it was only 15 seconds long was the max.
No way.
And so
I don't even remember that.
Yeah. So I jumped on, and I would say quick 15-second prayers.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how I started.
That's
I just started posting those videos, and they were okay as far as content goes because you can't really go wrong with an honest, heartfelt prayer. But it was a quick prayer. It was on a selfie mode in my phone. It wasn't anything perfect at all, and I just started to do that and started posting once or twice a day over a course of 6 months. And I think I was at the right place at the right time, but also the Lord's providence maybe favor over that, kind of to see other Christian TikTokers kind of join in, and we kind of had this community, and I started to see a following grow from there. And from there, it became like this prayer ministry thing that I never expected to happen.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it kind of was just this underlying opportunity to say, hey, again, you care about prayer. And this was the coolest part too. I wasn't just praying for people and seeing, even in 15 seconds, people testify of something happening or they feeling like a dose of hope. But also trying to teach people how to have a heart for other people and other regions of things that are going on outside of the U.S. and the Big C Church, which there's a lot of struggle, and we in the U.S. think that we have the worst, but it's really not that bad in comparison. And so helping people open their eyes to seeing, here's ways you can pray for other people in the church at large. And
so that's become a whole discipleship type thing.
Teaching people.
And are you still have that going?
I still in some way have posted content, try to stay consistent. It's opened up the door for other opportunities in ministry, and it's been a fun little ride. I'm in this place now where I use social media as a means to just share God doing amazing things, and again, opportunities for people to kind of pray. And there's a ton of other people on there. It's fun. Some of the Christian memer, funny people. I'm like, that's not me. I really settled into, this is who I am in this space, and this is who I feel called to be. I don't have to amass millions of followers and open up doors for speaking opportunities in this time, but I can just continue to use this platform and really bring people into the presence in their own spaces, in their own places.
That's awesome, dude. Holy smokes. That's so cool. I love how you are just laser focused on, this is what I want to do, because sometimes we can spread ourselves thin, which is why I talk a lot on this podcast. We can be like, I'm going to do all these things and stuff. And over the last, few years, guys really just spoken to me on just really just being laser focused and stuff. Because, in one arena, you can still have multiple things that you do under that.
Right.
But you want to make sure that if individuals are thinking of you or searching for you and your content, that they know, like, oh, this is what's going to deliver. Just like our favorite, like, TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
We know it's going to drop every single week at the same time, things like that. So we want to make sure we keep that consistency.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that and everything. So I love it.
And that's, I think, one of the biggest takeaways for young people,
Mm-hmm.
young content creators, young creatives. I think I have such a passion for Gen Z in this next generation, specifically because whether for better or for worse, they aren't following the same paths as we are.
Yeah.
Traditional education routes are even shifting.
Yeah.
Gen Z is very multi-passionate, very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that. You resonate with
Yeah,
that. But I think our parents probably don't understand this. And I think so much of people online make it seem like, yeah, do this thing, you'll blow up and become a full-time content creator or a full-time influencer. And I think the biggest practical advice that I always share with people, especially young people, but older as well, is this idea of long-term consistency over short-term intensity.
That's it.
It's like you can do the thing for a little bit and it'd be a flash in the pan, and maybe it gets you somewhere, but like, what does it look like to do it when nobody sees you?
That's so good.
In the grind, getting your hands dirty, perfecting your craft, bringing excellence to wherever you can, and doing it for the long haul. Yeah, especially if that's the assignment on your life.
Yeah, that's so good. Man, dude. Okay, so in addition to that, now that's more a ministry side. As a creative, what are some things that you're currently working on and building and delving in at the moment?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time recently serving, overseeing a brand for an organization that I did not found, so I wasn't the founder, but my good friend Hannah did when she was 16, and she had a crystal clear vision. But the organization's called Generation Distinct, and it helps essentially young people discover the wrong they were born to make right. So it's all along the lines of, this idea of we have conversations around justice, passion, and purpose. And it's kind of in this startup phase, which has been fun because you get to be really hands-on with a lot of things and helping them point themselves in a direction towards a discipleship kind of mentality and seeing how the scriptures outline Jesus, the gospel, and the Great Commission. And so I have the privilege to work and oversee the brand side of it and helping really from everything that is involved with overseeing a brand. And I'm sure this is not just social media. This is design. This is how you show up on the website. This is video. I get to lead a lot of creative direction and art direction. And some of the things that we've been working on recently is our annual event that these cohort participants who are kind of entering into this 6-month discipleship track, they get to kind of gather in Chicago every once a year.
That's cool. Yeah.
And we do,
and they're from all over the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And hopefully there's some even enrolled from India. And this is the reach that we're getting just from social media that they're hearing about us.
That's so cool.
They haven't been able to make it yet, but one day that's the goal, is to see one of our cohort participants from India make it all the way here. But all over the nation, in that 18 to 20 something kind of range, and they come here to see the fruit of community. And honestly, I'm sure you're part of online communities, and those are great. And you can kind of be involved to a certain degree, but there's something so enriching about being in person and seeing that person face to face and sharing stories. And it's been a really cool time. We just finished our experience 2 weeks ago, and we call it Untitled because we want it to be,
That's cool.
we want it to not be branded in the sense of, oh, I went to that conference and that's the end of it. We want it to be untitled because the young leaders can walk away with what they experienced there, and they almost label it and brand it.
That's really dope.
As it's,
dope.
So
now, did you come up with that?
The Lord really impressed that upon my spirit.
I love it.
And it was like, we want to do it different. And even the way that we model, it's not a traditional conference. I like to say it's it's like the best of a conference, a mastermind, and a retreat.
I love it.
And it's the best of
When's
all.
the next one, bro?
Next year, next
year?
July.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should stop by.
I would love
yeah,
that.
and really diving deep in this year, I felt like the Lord helped me kind of design creative and art direction around this phrase makers and mavens. And we wanted to highlight creators doing things that aren't often highlighted. So we had stories, and my one guy Ashley, he's a big video guy in his business. He helped us capture little shorts of our friends. One's a painter, does it more as a hobby, but really worships the Lord through that experience. Another photographer, a chef, a dancer.
So cool.
Luis was one of them. Remember
No
Luis?
way.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah.
So he actually just danced at my
he was there.
anniversary this weekend.
Come on.
It was awesome, bro. So they did Eternal Dance. Remember
Yes,
that?
yeah.
And they praise danced to that. It was amazing, dude. It was so good seeing him again.
It's really cool to see the Chicago creatives kind of collaborate.
Yeah.
And that was the heart of it. And we called it Makers and Mavens because through the lens of creativity, I think God is speaking to this next generation and really connecting with them in various ways. And so we had really powerful worship experiences. We also, one of the things that we really felt was important is to allow these young leaders to have time on the platform. So oftentimes, when you're trying to become a preacher or something, you have to, there's value in sitting under somebody and under an authority. And I think that's entirely important and growing and learning by just observing. But we also want to be a safe space for young leaders to say, here's 5 minutes. Try out your spoken word or try rapping if this is your first or second time. Try performing, try preaching. You might not get it all perfect, but we're going to cheer you on. And this is a safe place for you to kind of step out and do it.
I love that. I wanted to touch on that because everything I feel like this just keeps tying back to when we were in school.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that we did in there, but you're not going to actually learn it until you get out into the field and actually work through all of the struggles and all that stuff. You're just in this safe space where it's just kind of like, we're just working on these little projects and stuff. But you get actually out there, you have to deal with, working with clients or really figuring out how these materials and all these things kind of connect and work together and stuff. That's when you're like really learning.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience.
By failing a lot too.
Yes.
Yeah. And not getting it right the first couple of times.
But I love that you said it's a safe space. Like, don't feel, because everybody has their own different upbringings.
Right.
So don't feel like you can't try because of what someone told you years ago, whatever it is. Right here, we want you to try. If you mess up, you got to be open to the constructive, feedback
absolutely.
and, building you up and all of that stuff. But this is where you're not going to be judged or, all that stuff. So I love that you guys are doing that.
It's so fun. And then to bring in mentors who have been doing it for a while to come pour into these young leaders in like a 2-to-1 kind of ratio. So these mentors are getting really, like these young leaders are getting really up close and personal to ask these mentors questions. If they want to learn how to write a book, they're getting some real hands-on feedback versus the experience where you go to some conferences. And again, nothing wrong with those experiences, but where you go in, you receive a bunch and then you leave and you don't get a lot of touch points with people that you've probably admired and followed for a while. We're kind of flipping the script on that. And so, through the lens of creativity, through the lens of trying to do it a little different, not for the sake of being the different one, but just really feeling like this is how the Lord wants to connect with these young leaders through our organization. We're trying to flip the script in some really unique ways.
Exactly. Yeah, so I was going to say, you want to be unique. You have to be unique. That's what's going to draw people and stuff. And God just makes us unique naturally and stuff. So when we step into our specific gift and stop trying to be someone else, or I'm gonna do it how they're doing it. Of course you can learn and observe and different things like that, but you need to put your own spin on it. To make it unique, dude. So
Remix.
So, exactly. Remix it. I think I should change it from untitled to remix.
Oh, maybe. Untitled remix.
That might have been dropped to me. I don't know if it's from the Lord, but it was just
well, I'll give you credit if it comes through. Shout out to Juiette Z Payne.
Super tiny though.
But, put it on the back.
Exactly. But dude, something you mentioned, you said connecting. I love that. And I feel, okay, I'm going to tell you guys now, every episode when we interview people, none of this is scripted. None of this is pre-planned on any, the only ones that are pre-planned are the ones when I'm just speaking and I'm bringing the word and preparing that and stuff. But when I interview people, it's always just, I tell everyone, because a lot of people will text me like, oh, you know, what's the plan? So like, we literally talk and God just blesses it and it just goes. And I love that because I just love talking to people.
Yeah.
So all this is just flowing. But you just said something, and that was the Lord too, that reminded me of something I wanted to mention to you. You've been such a blessing in my life and my ministry and just all of it, because I feel like the gift that you have is that you are a connector.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's literally like, I don't know what category of spiritual gift that will fall under in scripture if we had to give it like a name or something.
Yeah.
But you are literally just that person who just connects people and connects the puzzle pieces. Dude.
I truly thank you for like seeing that in me for the longest time. And this is where it gets tricky, I think, as creatives who have a lot of different passions and interests, maybe even talents. And I think the phrase, you know, the cliche phrase of a jack of all trades is a master of none, but what oftentimes gets overlooked is that second part, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So I've discovered that I am, as opposed to a specialist, I am a generalist. And I am pretty good at a lot of things that are all speaking in under the umbrella of like creativity. But I oftentimes wrestled with the Lord with saying like, Lord, what is my superpower? What is the thing that you truly have gifted with me? And I remember listening to an Erwin McManus. He's a really deep thinker and he's a creative, again, someone I admire.
Send me some of his content.
Oh, I definitely will. And he pastors a church called Mosaic in LA. But this was like an old little clip that I caught of him, and he said he often felt like he was this like generalist of a lot of things, but never great at anything. And the Lord spoke to him and said, then maybe it's your job to bring all of the superheroes to the table. And so he had become this person to kind of bring community of really amazing people to the table. And as I started to, and this was years ago, and I was like, Lord, is that what you've called me to do? And I remember just praying, Lord, I'm like, please just highlight like what I'm really good at. And I'll chase after that thing. But then he reminded me, he's like, Michael, you have one. It's just not typically known and seen, but you've been doing it so naturally that that is your superpower. That building that bridge and connecting.
That's it.
And I've had such the honor of seeing those connections happen, and I never needed the credit for it. I never even needed to see that, but I just loved seeing the fruit that came out of that, and I loved doing it. It's so natural to me. I just loved, that person is really passionate about this. I know this person over here is really good at this. How can they kind of, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't kind of turn into something, but I know that I have to introduce them, or I have to make the connection. I have to like build that bridge. And I think in our ecosystem, or at least in Chicago land, I think there's a spiritual oppression of wanting to do everything on your own.
Oh yeah. I can definitely feel that.
Yeah, and I think specifically to this area, and I don't know if that's like that where you are listening to, but for us, I've been praying like, break down that wall. And how do we really build bridges from city to the suburb? How do we build bridges between the upper class to the lower class and the middle class in between? How do we build more connections and highlight people's strengths and put people in the right rooms so that the kingdom can advance here? And so thank you for saying that. It's truly something that I've with contentment have settled into. This is my sweet spot when I'm doing that. And I don't know what that even looks like sometimes vocationally. I'm like, can I get paid to do this?
Right,
like, how do I,
right.
I'm like, but Lord, you have a way of making these things kind of come.
Man, I'm telling you, because, I mean, I could just list a few, So first of all, on my first record, Mims designed the artwork for my first album, Who Am I?, which was just awesome. I loved it. And we had a whole, the whole contest. You did a few designs, and then people were voting. Or was it you that did a few? or was it like a few people did a few and like yours was voted? I can't remember how it went.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think it was a voting.
It was some type of thing, and then like
I hit 10 for mine.
right. I
10
remember that. I
votes.
remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, I clearly see it says Mims. I know he's cheating. But no, so Mims, you designed my artwork. You connected me with Mackenzie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mackenzie O'Brien. We performed a lot of shows together. You know, on TV together. That was an awesome experience with that.
That's crazy.
Who was it? Andrew Micah.
Oh yeah.
He was the first one to perform at a creative encounter.
Yes.
After my band did the first one, when I started reaching out for other people, he did one. Lewis, we just talked about Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
You connected me with Lewis and Ivana.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome because he danced and led the whole choreography for Turn It Up. So that was just all Lewis Grant and then the other 4 dancers who ran that whole thing. That was awesome. And it's just a few. Like right now, I just can't think of more at this moment. But dude, like a lot of situations, like you'll tag me or connect me with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so awesome, man.
It's like, what is there's so much to, I think it says something personally, like I have that relationship with you, so I know whether you are jumping on somebody else's project or I'm helping somebody like jump on yours.
Yeah.
I know the character, the integrity.
Yeah.
So it makes sense when you're in relationship with people, but that's the heart too. It's like, when I step into rooms, it can almost, and you've probably been there, you can tell when somebody's like trying to get to know you for what you have or who you know. And again, I think there's just a grace on this, whatever it is, a spiritual gift or not, like, but I think it is a spiritual kind of something for me specifically, that I go in to connect with people for who they are first, and learning about what they're passionate about, what they're gifted in, for the sake of being unselfish with it. And it's not who I can get ahead in. It's really shifting to that kingdom perspective. How do we? I always say you can't compete with me because I want you to win too.
Yeah.
And what if more kingdom creatives had that mentality?
That's
There's
so
a
good.
lot of work for everyone. You know, there's a lot of opportunities for everyone. We have a lot of times the poverty mindset of, you know, there's lack here, there's lack here, there's lack here. And there really isn't. There's a lot of opportunities. And what would it look like to instead of going at it solo, but bringing other people into it? And I even love that you have you're mentoring people in some of the things that you're doing and bringing on interns. I think the intergenerational aspect, whether you're traditionally learning something of a vocation or a specific skill, but also there's a lot of spiritual connection to that. Like.
So let me share with you. So this was a lot of work to have our summer interns here this summer, because a lot of our personal projects, because it was one of those things where like, oh, they're going to be able to help us to get stuff. But it was a lot of time carved out to actually teach and train, to where a lot of our stuff got pushed back and a little slower than what we wanted to deliver and stuff. But it was an awesome experience because one of them gave his life to the Lord.
Oh wow!
And like literally that first week, he was on the episode. He talked about it a bit. That first week he messaged Gabby and me. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm really feeling a tugging to like come to church with you guys. Like something like I'm not feeling satisfied. I'm not happy. It's like something just, I don't know what this is. And we tell him like, bro, that's Holy Spirit calling you, bro. That's the Holy Spirit calling you, dude. And he came on his birthday. That was, he loved it, and he was agnostic. His, I think, family is atheist.
Wow.
So, dude, crazy. So now, like the last few weeks, he's just been coming, and he's like getting that fire and everything. And just asks all these questions, getting into the Word. Insane, bro. So like, beautiful experience with that. So some situations that may feel like oh, this is like some work. It's like God's using it. You know? So you just gotta
and
work
it is
through
work.
Yeah,
it is work.
Yeah.
And I think I imagine Jesus with the disciples, and again, they were teenagers, young adults.
They were young, yeah.
They were young. They'd be acting a fool, and Jesus would be like, "Come on, guys. Come on, guys."
Man, yes.
It's work to show people and to allow people that much access into your life, into your skills. And I think if we were being honest, and sometimes in my own humanness, I think like, oh, maybe I don't share too much because that's my edge or that's my advantage in the marketplace. But I think the more that I've tried to break down that wall be a resource and do things in a way that shows generosity of my time and talent, not just where I tithe my money. I've seen the fruit of that too. And I think there's that multiplication that's on that as well. And I think it's rare even in the Christian space to like want to release that control of teaching other people and bringing other people on and helping other people call them up instead of, trying to push them in different ways, but you're actually pulling them up. It's been a journey. I think, going back to your question of how that's been creatively, I've gotten a lot of opportunities to kind of sit with young folks who are in the social media contractor, self-employed space, influencers space a little bit, and kind of just like how can I help you get to where you're trying to go next, if I can, or who is it that I need to connect you with to help you grow and kind of experience growth in your walk.
I love that. It reminds me of I think I've mentioned you Graham Cochran. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Graham Cochran, Recording Revolution, and just the Graham Cochran Show. He's always talking about just business, and he ties it with scripture and faith and everything. And he talks about if we look at other creatives as people who are not our competitors, like how you were saying, we're not competing, but these are people who are potential collaborators. Look at it. Other businesses and stuff, you guys may be doing the same thing. He's like, there's YouTubers who do the exact same thing. He's found ways he collaborates with them. Now they're sharing and creating content together. And then they've even created products together and stuff like that, as opposed to you just staying in your lane. You could probably just grow and have a larger reach in whatever you're doing, whether it's ministry or business. You have a larger reach if you take that thing down, like you say in Chicagoans. If we just be like, yo, let's write a song together instead of me just trying to drop my tracks and stuff. Let's just put something together. Now we got a larger audience, and now we can tell a lot more people together about the Lord through our music or whatever the thing is. So dude, that's just such a great thing to really bask in and really focus on and doing,
Yeah, and I think I've seen you do it too with musicians you bring on and your projects and stuff. And I think, the creative encounter in it of itself was to help showcase other people's thing and give them a little bit of a platform for them to kind of shine in certain ways in what they're specifically, talented in. And I think we need more of that. I think we will truly look like Christ and shine brightly for him in the midst of a culture that is very individualistic. If we can continue that kingdom collaboration and that idea of like doing things together. Because, I mean, you look at Acts in the early church, everyone was so adamant about sharing what they had.
Acts 3, right when the church launched. Acts chapter 3, right away. They were just giving what they had, just make sure everyone had what they needed and stuff. And that was it. Wow. So good. Dude, bro, this is awesome. Thank you so much. So this is what we usually do. At the end, we leave a word for the listener on here for the podcast, something to inspire, something to a charge of some sort for them to do, or something that you can share to motivate and really just bless the creative with, something that's on your heart that you want to leave them with.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of what we've talked about have been years of prayers. I think a lot of the church right now is praying for revival. In my heart, I think that's necessary. I think that we're missing a couple steps. I think there's a repentance. There's a revival that's in the midst. But I've been praying around this idea of Renaissance. And if you look at the 1560, and we did a lot of art history right now, like get that out of my head. But God's been returning, and it's funny, right? That our liberal arts education actually is paying off some way.
I want my art history book back though. That was a nice book. I don't have it anymore. I want it though because I sold it. I was like, I need this back.
I kept mine somewhere. It's a big, thick book.
I'm gonna come get it.
You can use it for a little bit. You can put it on this table. I've been talking a lot about the Renaissance, and when you think of the Renaissance, Michelangelo, all those, they were known as polymaths, very good at a lot of things, engineering and sculpture and painting, and you saw what the Renaissance did out of this historic era into like a modernism era. And I think we're on the verge of something like that again. And I think the arts, creatives, creators content creators, writers, painters, sculptors, like fine artists, digital people, social media, like all that is necessary for how we're going to communicate the heart of God in, again, our culture.
Yeah.
And I've been praying about that because I think when you look at the Renaissance, the arts were at the forefront of a lot of change in the midst of a lot of innovation that happened. And I think I've been praying, Lord, like, let the creatives rise up, let them have courage,
Yep.
let them have courage to step into what they feel like God is calling them to do, and do it in a way that is excellent. And again, excellence isn't perfection. That'd be maddening to try to chase perfection. Only God is. But we are God's handiwork. And I felt like the Lord saying, creatives, put your hands to work, because we have a model. We have, and you talk about Genesis 1 a lot. I think we, the Great Commission, or even in the early instruction to be fruitful and multiply, that wasn't just have sex and make a lot of babies, kind of thing. It was also to whatever was in the garden to expand out. And so I think, practically speaking, for creatives, I have a framework that I like to kind of strategize content around, but also a lot of what you could put your hands to. And I think it's a healthy way to go from consumption to contribution. So I think there is a healthy balance of consumption, as far as we need to learn where we come from. I think we even have to consume some content to a healthy degree where we understand. We understand where we are culturally. We understand what is working, for better or for worse. To curation, from consumption to curation. Curating means pulling out the best of and allowing the things that are good, even in the secular culture a little bit, like we can still learn things, pulling out the best of, and kind of allowing God to speak into those things. To creation, I think we need to get our hands dirty. We need to create. We need to start stepping out of our comfort zone to do the thing, and try and mess up. We need to really understand the craft of creation. To contribution. Creation, not just for ourselves, not just for our own name, not just for our own glory, not just for our own success, but the contribution part, meaning how do we build and pour back into the kingdom? And we all know the kingdom is upside down. So the more that we can get through that process from consumption to contribution, I think as creatives, the healthier we'll be. I think the more sustainable we will have as far as energy and passion towards the gift. Because again, we're always reminded of the why. It's not about us, but I'm doing these things. I'm learning here. I'm allowing God to refine it. I'm diving deep into the craft, and I'm bringing it back to the kingdom for His glory. I think that's the most important part of it all. And so that's the framework that I've kind of shifted my internal values as a personal brand, as someone who speaks online, to also how I bring this and approach this for brands and churches and ministries when I consult. How do we create content that has that framework in mind? How do we share or show up online with that mindset and that framework? And then how do we build that into our in real life relationships and the people that we're interacting with? Because behind the screen of every viewer or anyone that shows up here is a real person with a soul. And a lot more people need hope than we probably are even realizing now. And so if we can contribute to the kingdom good and helping people see that there is hope, not just in our testimonies, but by the power and the blood of the Lamb, I think we're going to see a shift. And I think, again, the creative arts is at the forefront of that, because it really skips the mind. That's why I love worship so much and music, because it just bypasses all of our logic and reasoning and speaks straight to our heart, the soul, like the soul of who we are. And God can communicate beautifulness there and wonder and awe. And I think that's so special for our ability to create. So that's my hope and encouragement for anyone listening.
Amen. Come on, man. Bro, thank you so much. This interview was awesome. So we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again. We caught up to part 1. We'll have to kind of continue the journey.
Part 2,
the journey.
Con chicken.
Con chicken.
Con chicken, yeah. This is going to be dope. Now, last thing I want you to tell everyone how they can reach you, what platforms and different things like that.
My handle is Michael R. Mims on pretty much anything, including Venmo.
Yeah. Love it.
I've claimed that handle. But I would be remiss if I didn't offer people an opportunity to learn about Generation Distinct. Their handle is at Generation Distinct. And again, we love helping young leaders kind of figure out what the next step is for them, whether they've just graduated or they're, trying to figure out, do I go down this path career, or I feel like God might be calling me to this. We help refine that for them. We help come alongside them with community and strategy to help make that next step into whatever they want to do for God's glory and His kingdom.
That's good, man. I'm gonna put my bid in already to be on an episode of one of those. Dude.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be a part of that that organization, like when you guys have like the events,
The
and
mentors,
stuff. Yeah, the mentors and stuff. Because that's all I talk about. That's why I breathe and sleep, is just talking about people going into their callings. So I would love to be a part of that. So I'm looking forward to next July.
Yeah, next July.
Next July. I love it. That's so
we're gonna do it well. And this year was amazing, but I'm just already getting downloads from what God.
Because you just had it. Because July now, you just had it this month.
Yeah.
So
good. Yeah.
Nice. See, that's one we got to talk about in the next episode.
Next episode.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is Michael R. Mims. All of the links that he just mentioned are in the description below on the YouTube channel. So go ahead and get that. And guys, follow Mims. He is doing amazing things for the kingdom of God, and just an awesome guy to learn from. I love him. He's just such amazing guy. So guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in to Creative Encounter Podcast. If you want to support this ministry, again, the link is below to support. So ACT International, the link is below for you guys to support it. We are a nonprofit, so all of your donations and support will be tax deductible. So we would love for you guys to support. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Support.